Alright girls and boys, welcome to another video. Today we will be playing the French tier 9 premium battleship Jean Bart on the map Trap in the Domination game mode. Keep in mind this match was recorded prior to patch 0.10.0, so we still have 5 charges of the main battery reload booster and 4 charges of the engine boost consumable with superintendent. But other than that, Jean Bart plays pretty much the same as always, even in the new meta. Let's have a quick look at how I'm building my captain with the new commander skills and which upgrades I'm using. It's probably not a very sophisticated build. It's a mix of aiming for long range marksmanship and survivability. And if you want even more survivability, you could swap Deadeye for fire prevention, of course. Still though, with the new patch you now have to grind 21 skill points for essentially getting a nerfed version of the old Jean Bart. Some people will argue that having Deadeye greatly benefits JB with her wide dispersion ellipse, and you didn't have this option before, but first of all you have to give up another important 4-point skill for that, and secondly let's have a look at some numbers. Even with a 10% bonus of Deadeye active, Jean Bart's accuracy is still a far cry from ships like Izumo or Thunderer. The values you are seeing here for them are without Deadeye, and it still remains true that in general you want to get closer with imprecise BBs to shrink the dispersion ellipse, but as closer you get, your absolute bonus from Deadeye shrinks even more. So yeah, I feel like 0.10.0 was a pretty significant nerf for gimmick-driven BBs like Jean Bart, Bourgogne and Georgia, because you will definitely feel the lack of one consumable charge apart from the heal, and it will limit your ability to make a play in the long run. As you can see, I used to use one of my engine boosts relatively early in the match, either to get into a good position quickly or just to help with speed, dodging and juking when trading with other BBs at longer ranges. But nowadays using one of your precious engine boosts this early would be ill-advised, since you might need it later. Wargaming already nerfed the engine boost mod 1 upgrade in the past, and before the nerf it was kind of ridiculous. Ships like Georgia and Jean Bart could pretty much run around with active engine boosts the whole match, but now the golden days of engine boosts are definitely over, and you need to put a little bit of thinking into when to activate it instead of zooming around the map all the time. Speaking of zooming, okay guys, real talk here. You might have already noticed it, I'm suffering from a severe clinical disorder, which is not only annoying for myself, but also for my viewers. Let's consult a dictionary and look it up.
Zoomeritis. Obsessive-compulsive disorder to constantly zoom in and out without any apparent reason, often diagnosed among unicorns and Adderall addicts.
There you have it, Zoomeritis, a very widespread yet barely acknowledged disorder. Sometimes it just takes over and I'm already seeing someone because of it, but this game was way before my therapy started, so please go easy on me, I promise I'm working on it. Whew, confessing this was a relief. Regardless of my condition, I hope you can still enjoy the game, so let's get back to it. I also just used one of my main battery reload booster charges already. I mean, we got one citadel from it on the Georgia, but it's kind of questionable if that was really worth it. And yeah, that's yet another consumable you need to use more cautiously, since Wargaming permanently robbed Jean Bart of one of the charges. It's sad, because she was a lot of fun to play prior to 0.10.0, but on the other hand, ships like her, Bourgogne, Georgia and so on were all overperforming quite significantly, so this global adjustment was more or less justified, although the argument can be made that the reason for Bourgogne's stats in particular lies in her being used by more experienced players on average. With that being said, Jean Bart is definitely not dead. I think we all still need to adjust to the so-called new meta, which for me personally doesn't really feel that new, but since this match was recorded in November last year, let's forget about the latest patch for a moment and focus on the match that lies ahead of us. By the way, I was kind of hesitant to upload this. I think it's an interesting battle, but I'm not a very good BB player. And to be honest, I'm a little bit afraid of being called out on mistakes that I didn't notice at all. But I think the majority of my viewers already knows that my channel is more about close and exciting games and not constant super unicorn plays. If you catch any glaring mistakes though, feel free to point them out in the comments. As always, I'm more than happy to get some feedback and interact with you guys, and meanwhile I'll try to explain my actions and reasonings during the battle as best I can. So 4 minutes have passed on the clock and it looks pretty good for my team right now. The enemies have already lost one of their DDs, my team is contesting all caps and I'm in one of my favorite Jean Bart positions on trap during the early game. The island in front of me provides cover from torpedoes from the Charlie cap and is just shallow enough that I can conveniently lob shells over it. The majority of the action seems to be going down at Alpha and Bravo though. All that's left to shoot at for me now is the bow tanking Aegir, probably one of the most frustrating targets to deal with for a Jean Bart, because Aegir can bounce my 15-inch shells with her bow and I can only hope for superstructure pens with AP from that angle or have to resort to firing HE. In fact, I'm about to waste another reload booster charge on the Aegir just to finally get some damage on her. I'm a little bit tired of sitting here without really accomplishing much, but pushing into Charlie is also not an option yet, with potentially 2 DDs and the Izumo around. Generally speaking, I still like my position, since we don't have that much firepower in the northern part of the map, but depending on how the match progresses, I'll probably need to relocate sooner or later. While we lost our first ship in overly aggressive Georgia at Alpha, my DDs had been playing quite passively here at Charlie. There was kind of a DD stalemate going on, which began to frustrate me, where both sides neither spotted each other nor were they able to take the cap. Now all of a sudden all DDs clash into each other, and in case you're wondering why I didn't shoot the Fletcher at the northern edge of Charlie, I noticed that she had only 5k HP left and I was confident that our full health Venom and Fletcher could take her out without my help, and the Aegir also repaired a single fire, which made her a more attractive target. However, we traded our full health Venom for the 5k HP Fletcher, but the good news is that the Venom was at least able to launch her torpedoes at the enemy Izumo, and the Japanese BB caught a lot of them, so Venom's death was not completely in vain. Our Fletcher just hit some additional torpedoes on the Izumo, so her fate is sealed, but regardless, the more immediate risk to my ship is the enemy Östergötland that's still contesting the Charlie cap. With our Fletcher now sitting between 2 islands, not only blinding her allies but also herself, I decide it's time to make a move in spite of the risk of getting torpedoed. I don't know much about the Östergötland, but what I do know is that she's not using survivability expert, and more often than not that's a telltale sign for an unexperienced DD player, so I'm taking my chances here. Getting rid of the Swedish destroyer would finally free the cap, and I would also be able to move more freely around the map, but of course this requires some sort of misplay on behalf of the Östergötland. Jean Bart's and Georgia's speed is known to be notoriously underestimated by new DD players, and sure enough we catch the Swedish destroyer in the middle of the cap. We swing our ship around and point our bow directly towards her to minimize the risk of eating a buttload of torpedoes. That's really one of the main benefits of Jean Bart, taking rapid evasive actions and still being able to use all your firepower. The Östergötland has already taken a massive hit and used her damage control party. Her torpedoes are passing harmlessly by our side and our next hit sets her on fire again, so there's really no hope of ever going dark again for her. The Brindisi behind me also takes a good chunk from her HP, and with both DDs at Charlie being killed, there's a whole lot of new opportunities for me to move on the map. The Östergötland did set me on fire, and I repaired this single fire immediately because I wanted to reduce my detection range as fast as I could to take the cap without being spotted and being reset over and over. And I was not expecting anyone else to set me on fire again in the foreseeable future, so letting this fire burn would have meant just taking unnecessary damage. In fact though, I used my damage control party a little bit prematurely, cause obviously I will be spotted for the full 20 seconds after firing my main guns if someone has an unobstructed line of sight towards me, and with a little bit of bad luck I could have been set on fire again, right after my damage control party running out. We get lucky though and take the cap. I feel like I also owe you an explanation why I made a full turn after killing the Östra Gutland and didn't go closer to Bravo immediately. I honestly don't remember anymore, but my guess is I really wanted to be as far away as necessary from the Aegir to take the cap, and I probably also didn't feel like fighting a kiting Aegir and a pushing Georgia at the same time, because when I made that turn it looked like the Georgia was coming towards Charlie. Still, it's just a guess, and I would probably do it exactly like this again in a similar situation, and maybe that's the reason why I suck in BBs, I don't know. If anything, a lack of aggression might be my main issue when playing BBs, but hey, I only played 6,000 matches in Battleships, so I'm obviously still in the learning phase. Although you gotta give me credit for hitting that blind shot on the Yugumo in smoke, but it doesn't really look like it's gonna matter regarding the outcome of the match. After 10 minutes my team has already lost 7 ships and I'm the last BB afloat. We are holding 2 of the 3 caps, but it's only a matter of time until the enemy team retakes Alpha, and we are about to see a lot of action at Bravo any moment now. I can angle pretty well versus the BBs in Bravo and the inevitable torpedoes from the Yugumo, although even one torpedo on the nose can take away a pretty significant portion of my health, but I really have no choice other than maintaining this angle and dealing as much damage as I can. I'm using the island to my right to protect my side from the Aegir and the Brindisi. Both of them can deal a lot of damage to the rather soft Jean Bart, and I think dealing with 3 ships at once is enough for now. So both the Iowa and the Georgia are kind enough to present us some flat broadsides to shoot at. I don't even know why they're doing this, since there's no other BB left that they also might need to angle against. It's probably an early stage of the win harder syndrome, where you have to kill the remaining enemies as quickly as you can at all costs, but I'm not complaining, I happily take the free damage. Our Fletcher, however, seems to be suffering from the even worse lose harder syndrome. She decided to walk out 4 kilometers in front of the soon-to-be-dead Georgia to launch a set of widespread torpedoes and ran aground in the process. To my utter surprise, she died shortly after without hitting a single torpedo, but at least she forced the otherwise oblivious Georgia to not only angle towards her torpedoes, but also against me. A true 200 IQ move, which I could only approve with a well done in chat. Okay guys, please bear with me and excuse my sarcasm, you know this game can be frustrating at times. After all, I managed to kill the Georgia with some superstructure pens and the Iowa caught 1 Fletcher torpedo on the nose, so I'm sticking to HE now to get a permafire on her, but just sitting here with the Yugumo around is too dangerous, so I keep reversing while trying to maintain my angling, both versus the Iowa and the Yugumo as well as the Aegir. We kill the Iowa with fire, but my angling versus the Aegir is not good enough. She's still getting juicy pens with every salvo, but as long as I don't see the Yugumo's torpedoes, I really have no other choice than tanking the Aegir. Turning away is not an option until I can ensure I don't die to torpedoes in the middle of my turn. So there was 1 set of torps, to me it looked like widespread, so I figure now or never there's still 1 set missing, but I prefer to take 1 widespread torpedo while turning away over sitting here forever and being farmed by the Aegir and Brindisi. By the way, I just googled the correct pronunciation of the Brindisi, in case someone from Italy is watching. Sorry for constantly butchering her name. I try to keep the correct pronunciation in mind. Speaking of the devil, the Italian cruiser is exposing a fair amount of broadside, but I can't take the time to get my turrets on target. I need to present the least amount of broadside myself to the inevitable torps, and sure enough, there they are. And we managed to avoid them all and even get the kill on the Yugumo with our secondaries, while she ran into our Friesland. Apparently it was a reload booster Yugumo. I'm still kind of confused about her torpedo spread. Was it maybe 1 narrow and 1 widespread? Feel free to educate me in the comments. All I know is that we squeezed ourselves into the classic battleship sized gap and didn't take any damage from her. However, after the turn my turrets were completely off target and the Aegir capitalizes on this occasion by pushing in. With the way my ship was orientated and my rudder was turned after killing the Yugumo, I decide to keep turning to my starboard side even if that means not having my turrets on target for the longest time. But I don't feel like brawling with a heavily armored cruiser equipped with torpedoes. So for now all I can do is waiting for my turrets to rotate while keeping the distance to the Aegir and maintaining my angling. Running away is not an option anyway, since there's only me and the Friesland left, and while we would need a miracle to win this match, dealing with the Aegir first would at least be a start. So after almost a minute of being farmed, with our turrets turned we can finally retaliate, and it looks like it's gonna be an unfriendly exchange of HE shells between me and the German cruiser, because we are both angled too steeply to take significant damage from AP. We get pretty good fire RNG and light 2 fires on the Aegir, and unlike earlier, she didn't repair the first fire but is definitely putting out those 2 fires. The Friesland is helping a bit and I'm slowing down. I want to keep the Aegir in my secondary range, since HE shells and fires are the only reliable way to deal damage to her. At the same time I don't want her to get even closer, because she does have torpedoes with 6 kilometers range, and taking any torps would be a disaster considering my HP pool. RNG's light shines upon us as we light another fire on the German cruiser. This time her damage control party is on cooldown, so her fate is sealed. We are about to secure the Kraken Unleashed achievement, and this is gonna turn the match into a 2 vs 3. With the kill on the Aegir we just swing around the points in our team's favor, but the Brindisi is contesting Bravo and running at our Friesland. There's basically nothing the Friesland can do if the Italian cruiser decides to rush her. So I'm spamming the get back command at her, hoping that she will leave the cap as fast as she can. As long as the Friesland is alive, we might have a chance to turn this game around. I still have 1 heal left and could potentially even spot for the Friesland while she goes behind an island or sits in her smoke and farms at the enemy ships from safety. But it looks like she has already used her smoke on the Aegir and actually allowed the Brindisi to get close enough to spot her. All she can do now is running away and hoping for the best. The Brindisi somehow misses the Friesland, but one of the Alsaces gets a massive hit on her. However, for some reason the Brindisi decided to turn away from our Dutch DD, and it looks like she might even run aground, which would our Friesland give the chance to escape. I slowed down a little bit to get 1 salvo off on the Brindisi. Unfortunately I didn't expect her to run aground, but since she's beached now, I want to get around this island as quickly as possible. She should be permanently spotted, and if I manage to get a clean shot on her broadside, this game might actually be savable. But before I can make it around the island,
Our team depends upon you. Good game, everyone.
our Friesland dies to a Brindisi torpedo. I think it's safe to say that I was moderately triggered. But what can you do? Sometimes the matchmaker blesses the enemy team with the bigger potatoes, sometimes it's the other way around. Anyway, I should have taken the blind shot on the Brindisi regardless. I don't think I would have killed her from 20 kilometers away. Remember, this is pre-Deadeye Jean Bart without lock-on. But you miss every shot you don't take, so that was definitely a wasted opportunity. Now it's a 1 vs 3. I'm using my last heal here for the final encounter, and I'm contemplating in which way I can use the islands in front of me to not fight 2 battleships at once. We spot 1 Alsace, but I'm pretty sure the undetected Alsace is even closer to me, so I'm holding my fire for now. At the same time, I'm really hoping that the closer Alsace doesn't come out and parks behind the island. I would really like to keep this island between me and her and only fight 1 BB at a time, so I kept going in a straight line to not lose speed until she eventually came out. Because of this, my angling was not perfect, but neither was hers. We get a good salvo on her, but now we are stuck between 2 battleships and the Brindisi can farm me from the middle of Bravo. The other Alsace seems to be thinking that I'm forgetting about her because she's further away, so we take advantage of her oblivion and take her out. However, my own angling is also not good enough against the remaining BB. I take an unnecessary 10k salvo, and with me having less HP than her now, stationary trading is not an option anymore. My only hope is maybe a drive-by, but I'm not even sure if I can survive long enough to get close to her. If she's smart, she should just ram me and not try to exercise any advanced shenanigans. I'm the last ship alive in my team and there's only one correct play to win. While getting closer to her, I'm trying to disable her turrets. It doesn't work, but I get some penetrations on her superstructure and I'm actually outtrading her by a large margin. For me it looked like she was initially going for the drive by herself, which would have been perfect, but after bleeding a lot of HP she makes up her mind and turns into me for the ram. At this distance there's nothing I can do to avoid it. Facing imminent death, I blow my horn, salute the fallen sailors, and that's it. The game is lost. Oh well, one of those games. I didn't play perfectly, but I think we deserved better. 220k damage and 7 kills were not enough to carry my team. Almost 2k base XP on a loss, which means we would have been close to 3k if we had won this. Chapeau to the enemy team, they were simply better. The ships we dealt damage to don't even fit on one page of the detailed report, but it doesn't matter, who cares about damage if you lose. Even the 1.2 million credits we've earned merely feel like a consolation prize. Alright, what do you think about today's game? Would you have played it differently? Did I miss an opportunity to turn this game around? Again, I don't really feel that comfortable in BBs, but I think it was an entertaining game and I didn't have any BB content on my channel until now. I don't think Petrol Pavlov's counts as a BB. So I finally turned this replay into a proper video. Regarding the video, I would also like to hear your opinion of the little memes along the way. Was it too much? Were they too distracting or not funny? Any kind of feedback is appreciated, and honestly I'm still looking for my niche as a WoWs YouTuber, and I feel like it lies in putting a little bit more effort into editing my videos, although I have to admit that I'm trying to compensate for my lack of meme videos at the moment. I did start with some kind of montage a while ago, but it's so much work and for now I prefer to procrastinate and to upload commented replays instead. I also hope you didn't take the zoomeritis joke too seriously. Obviously it's just an annoying habit. Any kind of real mental disorder is a very serious issue for the affected person, and trust me when I say I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's it for today folks. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. I hope to catch you next time. See you soon and take care.